Nothing contained in this podcast should be considered a substitute for professional medical advice. This content does not represent our respective employers and is purely the opinion of the podcast hosts. We are not your personal medical providers. Sorry, friends. So, if you have concerns or seeking a diagnosis or treatment, please seek individual advice from a healthcare provider in your area. We are not liable for any risks associated with acting upon the information contained in this podcast. This is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only, so enjoy the ride.
Please drink responsibly and in moderation. Before drinking, please be sure to be of the legal drinking age for your country. We do not encourage the misuse of alcohol.
Welcome to Medical Media Mixer, the perfect cocktail. I'm Nicole Peniston, psychologist.
And I'm Tara Prisco, physician assistant. What's up, lady?
Did you get snow?
Yes, and then it's kind of drizzling now. How about you?
I got more snow than they told us and anticipated, but all I really had to do was go brush off my car, and that didn't take that long. So
yeah.
And then I moved my car into a cleaner spot. So hopefully if it does snow more, it'll be easier to get out in the morning. But
yeah, you may have gotten more than me because there was nothing. It was like a coating.
I'd say we got maybe an inch and a half.
Okay.
But that was between early yesterday and currently. And it's drizzle, snowing, flurries now, but not heavy. So hopefully
I don't know
it
the
stays
difference between freezing rain and sleet. I know there's a difference.
I think sleet is harder. I think it's a thicker consistency.
Okay. So maybe it's freezing rain.
Freezing rain, sleet, hail. Is that
hail,
the continuum?
Yeah. But hail happens with in the summer, so that's even weirder.
But isn't hail chunks of ice essentially?
But it happens during hurricanes and tropical storms and weird things.
Weird seasons.
We don't do weather. Sorry, people.
I'm not a doctor of weather.
No.
There's a lot of things I'm not a doctor of. But I thought it was much colder out than it was, so I had my little hand warmers.
Oh, that's cute.
And I didn't need them, but now they last 10 hours, so I'm just hanging out with them.
Well, now you got warm hands.
Yeah. And feet, because I put ones in my little snow boots too, and I didn't need them, so.
Very cute.
But I had a giant, because that's what I gave to my mailman and things like that for Christmas. So I just had a lot of them. So I was well, I should use them.
That's a really cute gift. I like that.
Yeah, it sat in my mailbox for 2 weeks though before they took it out. I was you guys know this is for you. There's a little card and a bow on it and everything. But, yeah.
Yeah, we have the same mail lady literally for 13 years. Mm-hmm. Linda, good old Linda. She always leaves a treat for the dog. So yeah, we always give her a little something.
Well, I think that's why it sat there, because I know there's the one steady mailman, but every once in a while other people. So I think they thought oh, well, we don't want to take his gift. So I think that's why it sat there for so long, because maybe he was off or something. And then when he came back on shift, he got it.
Yeah. You froze for a moment. So I don't know what happened other than he was off and he was back on, but hopefully whatever that glitch was,
that was the gist.
Doesn't happen again.
That was the gist.
It was bleh, and you were frozen. Do you do anything this weekend at all?
No, not a thing. I did some work, which surprisingly I didn't have to do too much work over the weekend. What I did was just little stuff that has always kind of lingering in the background. I was oh, I'll take care of this. But on Friday I had to take my car for service, which took much longer than expected. And then they didn't do everything. So I have to go back this Friday. And then I had to go for my MRIA, whatever. So I was anxious that I wasn't going to get all my work from home stuff done, because I only work from home one day a week, but I still have the same amount of work to do. But because everybody on Thursday was telehealth, I also worked from home on Thursday. So those two kind of helped me out, that I was able to not fall behind. So that was good.
That's good. It's always good to come out on top and not be behind.
Well, and even though I have the same amount of reports to write, those are from people who are already seen, but new patients, I don't know about you, but we've had a lot of cancellations in the beginning of the year with changes in insurance, people not meeting their deductible yet. So I'm approaching the slow season, because it's 2 weeks behind for me.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
So I don't know. I don't like the slow season, but it is what it is. I understand I have to pay a big old chunk of money from my deductible, but then it'll be met and then we'll go about our business for the rest of the year, like all of us insurance using folks out there. So
you got it. Last night, the husband and I actually made the kids go to my in-laws. We went out on our own. And I don't know
Date
if you've
night.
ever been to Yestercades.
No, but I've heard about it. I've heard
Yeah,
it's
there's
fun.
a couple locations. There's one close to me. There's a couple in New Jersey. And, you know, for our listeners, it's a place that has all vintage, like, video game machines and pinball machines. And then they have console stuff too. And you pay like the 95 or something for the first hour, and then it's prorated in 15-minute increments after that. But it's a good time.
Very Stranger Things season 5 coded.
Yes, it feels like that. Although we realize that like the Simpsons game and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game are essentially the same thing, that you're just walking and killing through the same kind of thing over and over again. And then once in a while you get a bigger boss, but like there's no like variety or skill to it.
I mean, isn't that how most of those games are?
Yeah, I guess some are better than others. They had Punch Out. They no longer call it Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Yeah, I don't think he gets any of the proceeds from it anymore. I think that's why.
Yeah, so they had that. They had, there's like a lot of them in this place, but it's a good little like something quick to do, fun, interactive.
Yeah.
Pinball. I was playing some Indiana Jones pinball machine, and then all of a sudden things started lighting up, and 5 balls were shooting everywhere.
Sounds like a very exciting date night.
I was like, what's going on? But I think that was good. I think I got a good score at that time.
Awesome. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. So it's nice to have things like that in your area.
Yeah. I kind of just stayed home, watched a bunch of random stuff on Netflix, some for the pod, some not. I don't know if you've seen His and Hers, how it's supposed to be like this whole.
Yes. I watched the whole thing.
Girl, I called the ending right like from the first scene.
You saw the whole ending?
Yes. I called that, and like that little twist with like the girl, like the reporter. I didn't catch that, but I knew it was going to be her. And I'm not giving any spoilers for people, but I knew like right away, the first scene when they were giving her background, like she'd been having like issues, and I was like, that's it. I didn't know why, but I knew it was her.
Right.
I was like, and then everybody at the end, oh my God, I didn't see that twist coming. I'm like, am I psychic or did I just follow the plot line?
So that's based on the books by that Alice Feeney, who does a lot of those quick
which
type,
I've read a lot of. I've read a few of her books.
Yeah, so they do those kind of quick things. I thought, it was fun to watch. I thought sometimes like the production value was a little over dramatic in some parts, like a little.
Right. I don't know if you saw my Facebook post, but I think it was like episode 3 I was on. I was like, why do I hate every character? Like I hate every person. Yeah, there's nobody
likable.
They're like, I was like, I barely even like that little kid, and like I only like her because she's a small child, and like what has she done? But like everyone was like so. They somewhat redeemed themselves toward the end, but still everyone, I was just like, I cannot stand you. Yeah. And then someone I used to work with, she was like, I read the books and I felt the same way, that I read the book and I felt like I hated every character too. I was like, okay, at least I'm doing this right.
Exactly. But it was a quick like boom, able to like binge it. So yeah. I like those kind of things. I like limited series actually for that reason sometimes, because sometimes they kill things in the end, as we talk about, like some of these long series, like multiple seasons, and you're like blah at the end. Like this, like get it all done, tie it up, give me some,
Yeah. Well, and I really like that actress Tessa Thompson. I've seen her in several things. And so that was why I was like, okay, let me watch this. And then when I was getting annoyed, I was like, let me hang in there because I really like her. So
the main guy, Jack, too, he's in a lot of things.
Yes.
That actor,
he's familiar. I can't remember his name.
He's in stuff. Yes. He's in lots of stuff.
A lot of stuff. Yeah. He's in a lot of stuff in this movie. Literally and figuratively. He's in a lot of stuff.
Oh, yes. Oh, I see you have a pretty glass. What are you drinking?
I do. So I had some of those, those like sugar cubes that you put in champagne to flavor it.
Ooh.
I had a couple of them from like the holiday season that I never used. So I decided to try one. So this one, I also got champagne glasses finally because I didn't have them. This one is apple, pear, no, not rosemary, apple, pear, and some sort of spice. It's all right. It's leaving my glass very dusty, which I'm not loving that, but it's not bad.
Okay. Well,
I had also, for my birthday forever ago, had gotten 12 days of sparkling wine. So I've got lots of little bottles of sparkling wine. Just like, oh, great, I can pair
this. That's nice when there's like little bottles too, because something like that, once you open it and then it goes flat. So I like that. Even when I buy like Prosecco or something for like most, like the little bottles are where it's perfect. At. Yeah. Well, you saw the picture of my drink, so
I did.
It is going to be interesting. Let's hope I don't make a mess in any way, shape, or form.
Well, and it's funny. There are for the next episode that I'm doing, I didn't take notes, so I'm going to forget stuff. So I'm saying this now so you can remind me. There are 3 medical crossovers that I want to bring up, and one of them is connected to your current episode. So
okay.
Yes.
All right. So my drink today is called the Bloody Elixir. Essentially, it's a Bloody Mary. But
in a blood
this
bag.
one, yes, mine is in a blood bag. I will have to put that on. I'll hold it and drink it and show it on the socials. But this one, you can use, of course, the Bloody Mary. You can use a pre-made mix. There's plenty of them out there.
Yeah, yours had like a lot of ingredients. I was like, girl, you buying all those spices?
All right, I'm going to lie. I'm not going to lie. I used a pre-made mix today because I didn't have time to do anything else.
Yeah, because I was like, you need dill and thyme and Old Bay. Yeah. I was like, girl.
I have everything, I think, except for dill and horseradish in the house. And I was like, but anyway, this one is a little twist on a normal Bloody Mary. So the ingredients are Old Bay seasoning, 2 ounces of vodka, 1 teaspoon dried dillweed, 1 teaspoon ground white pepper, 1/4 teaspoon celery salt, 2 dashes Worcestershire, 2 dashes Tabasco, 1/2 ounce of elixir juice, which is a mixture of olive brine, dill pickle brine, and various other pickle brines, which they aren't very specific on that.
Sorry, I was laughing because that TikTok, when you misread words, Worcestershire.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Worcestershire.
There's all those Shire words, Gloucester, which is Gloucestershire, is the way it's spelled. There's something wrong with all
Gloucester.
Yeah.
It's Worcester sauce.
Lemon juice, 1 teaspoon prepared horseradish, 4 ounces tomato juice, and garnish with a kosher dill pickle and thick cut bacon. So you're supposed to coat the rim of the glass with the Old Bay seasoning, and then you basically mix all of the other ingredients except for the bacon and pickle, shake them up, pour it, and then throw your pickle and your bacon in there. So I'm going to put mine on screen so we can see my lovely... What is this giving me? And sorry, there's like a little pop-up here.
Beautimous.
Here we go. So the picture I took is in the correct upright fashion. I'm not going to do that again because it's the straw part and I don't want it to leak. And there's like a little way to do the straw
Now,
here.
is this like a food grade bag or did you just like steal a regular bag from work? And
this is actually meant for cocktails. It's meant for like, I guess, vampire parties and things like that. Yeah. Like they came with like labels and stuff. Okay, here's a problem. I guess you have to squeeze it up to get it out.
And then that's going to cause a mess if you squeeze too much.
I'm going to have to be very mindful about how I drink this. But it is very good.
Okay, so you do like a bloody.
Well, that was my question. Are you a Bloody Mary person?
I've never tried one, but for a very long time I didn't like tomato juice. I didn't like tomato soup. I'm coming around on tomato soup, so I feel like I need to try a bloody, but I need to try like a good one, like maybe one that's got like the bacon and crap in it, because I feel like that would help me get through it a little bit better.
So, yeah, I mean, so I know since we've talked about this already before, you're an olive and a pickle person, so you like those kind of flavors. So some of those tend to be in here. Little spicy, which is nice. It's the tomato thing is kind of big though. So if you're coming around on tomatoes, we'll see. But I am definitely a Bloody Mary person. So if I went out to a brunch, it depends on what I'm going to eat for my meal. If I'm going to eat eggs, I'm going to do a Bloody Mary. If I'm going to do something sweet, probably I'll do a mimosa, depending. I had a really good Bloody Mary way back when I went to New Orleans, and now I'm not going to remember. I think it was called the Ruby Slipper, maybe. Ooh. It's like a breakfast place around there, something to that effect. And they had absolutely amazing ones with like the horseradish just like in there and stuff. So
nice. I do like, so that's another question. Where are you on the horseradish front? Because I feel like that's another of those very distinct flavors.
Yeah, I'm cool with horseradish. I mean, like used in things like this. Like I'm not going to just like eat it.
I feel like it's not a very Americanized flavor condiment, but we've had enough exposure to it to know if we like it or not.
Right, exactly. I think they say though, actually most wasabi now isn't real wasabi, that it's basically horseradish that's with colored like green.
Spice in it. Yeah, that makes sense.
So they use...
Forever ago, I did a cooking class with my mom. I had bought her like a gift certificate for her birthday, and we made our own like homemade horseradish, and it was really good. So,
oh wow!
I couldn't tell you what was in it, but we made it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was cool.
So this is good. I ended up using, because like I said, I was in a hurry. I had bought this bottle back when I thought about this episode a long time ago. I didn't have a drink at the time. It's called Zing Zang, I think is the brand.
I've seen that before.
It says it's America's #1. It's pretty darn good. It's got the right amount of spice. Like, I don't want it to be bland. So this is pretty tasty.
Nice.
So folks, try it however you want it.
As a non-bloody drinker, are they usually spicy, or it depends?
It's going to depend on what's in it. Yeah, I mean, the horseradish is supposed to give it some spice. Usually there's some sort of pepper in there. You could throw a little jalapeno juice. There's a lot of ways you could do this. But yeah, they're supposed to have a little bit of a kick.
I feel like tomato's neutral enough that you can throw kind of any random spices in there and it would give it a kick.
Exactly.
Nice.
So what I'm going to be covering is obviously blood related.
But it's not tomato related.
And I swear I'm not doing a series on purpose, but it is also a autosomal recessive condition.
Okay.
I have done 3 in a row, I think. Autosomal recessive conditions, and I'm doing one more, but that's a while out. But it was unintentional. It's just the way it worked out.
Sometimes that's the flow you're on.
It is. I guess I'm on genetics. So I'm covering 2 things. The main thing is Call the Midwife. Season 8, episode 2, called, it's going to give the name away, The Sickle Cell Story.
Oh, I wonder what that's about.
What's interesting is this gave historical context to it, which I thought was really interesting. I love the way the Call the Midwife really is accurate in the history of when these things happen, because that show starts in the 50s to the 60s, like it kind of goes through time. So this current one takes place in the 1960s London. And basically, we've talked a little bit before about Call the Midwife, but the concept is that there's like one local doctor for this area of London called Poplar, and then there's this house of nuns that's called the Nonnatus House, and they are all midwives and nurses. And then there's these other young nurses who live there in Nonnatus House who are not nuns, who also are nurses. And they're this team who goes out into the community and helps women to give birth in their home, but they also do a lot of other nursing duties, and they also hold like clinics in the big gym in town, like the big rec center. So there's a lot of like community involvement, and so of course they see things of all walks of life. So what's interesting, this one is basically featuring there's usually multiple storylines going on, but this features a family who came from Africa and who are living in the community, and they, basically show their son who's chronically ill. He's frequently like fatigued. He's often in pain. You see him running outside to go play, and he has to stop because his legs hurt. He's thin. He's failing to thrive. His symptoms kind of come and go. They can't really figure out what's going on. And, they, at this time, they really don't have answers. So at first they sort of treat it as it comes. They don't really have a diagnosis for him. Some people even kind of minimize the mother's concerns, say it could be stress because they moved, poor nutrition, or just being an overprotective parent. But as the episode progresses, the doctor, he actually was reading, of course, in medical journals about this disease that people specifically coming from Africa have. So they start to notice like how severe these crises are, and even start to notice that the father has similar things. The father, at one point, I don't remember what the reason was, but he had to run somewhere and he had to stop because his legs were cramping. He was in pain, that kind of a thing. So the doctor, like I said, who had read the medical journal, because remember, this is a time where, yes, the UK is mainly Caucasian, but there are, because of colonization and different things happening, people immigrating and coming to the UK. And so it's something that now he needs to be aware of.
Wait, let's hold up. Didn't we forget to say the relevance of why you're covering this in a February episode?
Oh, yes, you are correct.
Because mine is also a February episode. Right. That's why I was like, wait a minute, this is important.
It is. So it is Black History Month, February. So I had originally planned, not this episode, another, well, you'll see. I have more to come
future episode
this month. But yeah, I mean, so this is something that makes sense to cover because it is something that mostly affects that population. We'll come into a little bit of that in the future, in the genetics later in the episode. But yes, thank you for reminding me.
And that's one of my crossover things for the next episode. That's why it was on my mind. So
I got it. So essentially, the family does, the doctor does come to realize what it is, and then basically helps them to get the access to the care they need, usually in the central hospital or in a bigger academic center. But it seems at the time that they were really just learning about what this was and how to treat. And this is in the 60s. So, I mean, maybe our young listeners feel like the 60s is a long time ago, but to me, I'm like,
I mean, we weren't alive then, but we were maybe a thought, a consideration.
Our parents were in like middle school and high school. But yeah, I mean, it's not that long ago, if in perspective, to think that this huge disease process that we know so much more about now really wasn't recognized, and probably because it mostly affected people who lived in Africa. Maybe there they didn't have the resources. So until those people started moving outside of that area and started experiencing it in other countries, where the research started to happen.
And just the health disparities in general for minority populations,
Exactly.
Those things not being necessarily recognized until it became a larger issue.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to jump over to a more modern depiction of this, just because it'll kind of show you where we've come from where we started. So in last season of the Pitt, so in season 1, there's a character, Joyce St. that we follow. So she first comes in the ambulance to their emergency department in obvious distress. She's screaming, writhing in pain. The medics assume she's drug seeking and unwilling to cooperate. They said she was removed from a bus for disturbing passengers, and they hand her over to the ER team. She explains that she called 911 because her own pain medications aren't working, and she tells Dr. Samira Mohan that she has sickle cell disease and is in crisis. Later, we'll talk about what crisis is. Dr. Mohan orders IV morphine and Dilaudid, which start to help her. She also orders an exchange transfusion and begins gathering her medical history. And then Joyce's wife, Undine, shows up and thanks, her for actually listening to her partner, because other people in the ER and the EMTs are looking at her like she's drug seeking. So they do find on X-ray a new density in Joyce's right lung, which turns out to be something called acute chest syndrome, which we'll also get into, which is a pretty serious complication of sickle cell. And Joyce talks about her lifelong battle. Both her parents carried the trait, and then she was diagnosed as a newborn, and she's had years of medical care and keeps like all of her history on her phone. She's very organized. Later, the charge nurse, Dana, sees that she's stabilizing thanks to the transfusion. She's waiting for a bed upstairs, and they talk about like home responsibilities, reminding her to take care of other things and trying to juggle things that sometimes Joyce is sort of not putting herself first, taking care of their child, their pet, things like that. And Joyce and Undine, sort of share a kiss and show like their little love story. The doctors later determined that Joyce needs to be intubated, though, to prevent further life-threatening complications. So for our listeners, intubation is when they put a tube down into your trachea and into the first part of your lungs to help you to breathe. And so often we want to do this to protect the airway before something becomes acute, if we can. Obviously, that's not always an option. So they're doing this in preparation because they know that she's decompensating and that they're going to have to protect her lungs. And typically you're going to sedate a patient for that. So Joyce initially sort of hesitates, wants to stay awake as much as she can from through the procedure, but then they explain like that's not really possible. So then she is eventually sedated and intubated and stabilized and ends up going to the ICU. So this really highlights the misunderstanding, the racial disparities, the assumption that it's somebody who's drug seeking. And these patients require significant pain management. So what you would give to somebody else, you would think would kill, and then what you would give to them wouldn't touch them because they've had to deal with this for so long. Mm-hmm. And if you gave what you give to a sickle cell patient to somebody else, it would kill them, kind of a thing. Like it's an extreme amount. More
of like this long-term pain requires better pain management.
Because it really does.
Like their baseline pain is higher than most people's baseline pain.
Absolutely. So sickle cell. I think there's some knowledge in sort of the general community, like people about this, but
I honestly know nothing other than it's named because aren't the cells the shape of sickles?
Correct.
Other than that, I know nothing about why it happens, what are the symptoms, what is the long-term effects. And then I know it can occur more often in African-American communities. But other than that, I don't know anything about it.
Right. So genetically, it really started in Africa. There is some little bit of drift into some of the Mediterranean, Middle East because of mixing bloodlines. There may be people who carry it there. So it is, like we talked about in the beginning, it's an autosomal recessive. So that means that you only develop symptoms if you inherit 2 copies, one from each of your parents. And basically your body makes a different shape hemoglobin. Now, we talked in hemoglobin. We're like tying all our episodes in. We talked about hemoglobin, methylhemoglobinemia in the last of my episodes. So hemoglobin, to refresh you, is what our body uses to carry oxygen to all of our tissues, and it's usually located inside our red blood cells. So the parents don't know necessarily that they carry it, and so of course then it can get passed on without them knowing. So there's sickle cell disease, which is you have both copies of it. So you have both of the bad copies of the sickled cells. There's trait, which is the carrier, and then there's a normal hemoglobin. So there's kind of 3 different options here. So when both parents have sickle cell trait, so both parents are not affected, but they carry 1 copy, they have a 25% chance that their child will have sickle cell disease, 50% chance their child will just carry it and not be affected, and 25% chance that they will be unaffected. And that goes back to your good old genetics Punnett square. If anyone remembers those little boxes, you got this up
but
here.
But that's only 75%. What's that other 25%?
No, 25, 50, 25.
Oh, I thought you said 25, 50, and that was it. So yeah, I was just like, wait a minute.
And, so, I mean, the odds there, it's not great. 25 is big odds. I wouldn't take those odds. So nowadays, if you know you carry it, there are ways, if you wanted to do something like IVF and have your embryos tested, that would be one way of going around it, or just having you and your partner tested, obviously, first to see if you both carry it. So one of the reasons, which I alluded to in the last time, that evolutionary wise, it persisted in Africa and these people didn't necessarily die out is because it had one benefit. It provides partial protection against severe malaria.
Which you mentioned in the last episode.
Right. So these people who maybe suffer and have all these pain and have all this, but they don't get malaria and die. So the way evolution works is people who live because they have an advantage, right, are going to continue to pass things down because they're living and procreating.
The survival of the fittest.
Exactly. Nowadays with modern medicine, I think survival of the fittest has changed a bit.
Yes.
But I mean, historically, that's why these genes persisted, because they didn't die out from the sickle cell as often as people were dying from malaria. So they were protected. So this includes like areas West and Central Africa, the Mediterranean, like we said, and the Middle East, and some of India, and of course the Caribbean, because they tend to have roots from Africa. And in the US and Europe, it basically disproportionately affects Black and Afro-Caribbean populations. So, people who've come here. So let's talk a little more in detail about what that is. So normal hemoglobin is flexible and round, allows the red blood cells to easily pass through your blood vessels and do what they got to do. The sickled hemoglobin is different. So sickle is because it's shaped like a hook, and it basically makes those red blood cells hook-like. So the hemoglobin's inside of them and they're hook-like shaped. So under low oxygen conditions like illness, dehydration, stress of any kind, your hemoglobin molecules stiffen a bit, and then plus they're sickled. So that becomes where they get for risk of getting caught up in your blood vessels, clogging, not getting things where they need to go. So that's what's interesting. They start sticking to each other. You kind of picture a bunch of little hooks all stuck to each other. And that's in the very tiny vessels. So your capillaries at the end of your fingers and toes. But of course, in your organs are also tiny little capillaries. And they can even actually break apart because they're all getting caught on each other. So some of them burst, and that is actually something called a hemolytic anemia, where other blood products are being spilled into your body. So in the end, they're not moving oxygen like they should. They're clotting in these places where then the oxygen is not getting there, inflammation, and then damages their organs essentially. Any questions so far? Because this is a little bit of a sciencey, heavier one.
No, but thank you for asking. Well, I guess like I had a question, but then I was listening, so I got rid of the question. But you were saying like it happens mostly in people of African and African American descent. And I was like, well, can other people get it? But I guess unless both parents carry the traits.
Right. So theoretically, right. Mediterranean, Middle East. I mean, because the population is, like we talked about with the methylhemoglobinemia, our population is more diverse now. We are mixing through, different ethnicities, having children of mixed races, mixed ethnicities. It's a good thing genetically because things like that are less likely to match up and happen. But yeah, you could absolutely have somebody who appears, right, Caucasian, but they're Mediterranean and there's a little bit of African blood in that Mediterranean population. And bad luck, it could just boom, two people together could happen.
Well, and that's how genetics works. It kind of is, even though there's a likelihood and we can predict, sometimes it is just a crapshoot too. So
it is. I mean, you might not expect it,
yes.
And then it happens. Don't mind Evie, the barking. All the children are here, but the other child, the dog, is going to bark.
Of course. She's got something to say. She has questions. You asked if the audience had any questions.
True.
And Evie has a lot of questions about sickle cell. She wants to know, do dogs get
it? Not that I know of, but I'm not a veterinarian.
Yeah.
So baseline, they have chronic anemia, which is going to give them shortness of breath, delayed growth. They can have jaundice because, like I said, when those cells break open, bilirubin goes out into your body, which causes jaundice.
I didn't know that's where bilirubin was from.
Where jaundice was from, yeah. Jaundice.
Well, I knew that, but I didn't know that bilirubin was from the cells
in your
breaking
cells.
open.
So it comes from your liver, but it also is inside your cells when you have hemolysis. Hemolysis means breaking, lysis of blood vessels, or blood cells. It can come out from there too. That's one of the ways. So that's a whole other thing. Indirect bilirubin. That's a whole nother.
Yes,
that's another episode.
I've heard, I guess, about indirect. That's when it's passed on from mother to child.
So it has to do with where it came from. We all have Billy.
So that would be indirect from what I'm referencing.
In our body, we have indirect and both indirect all the time. Yeah,
okay.
That's a whole
another
other
episode.
Thing. Yes, we could talk about jaundice and babies and all that another time.
Okay.
But they also can get painful swelling of their hands and feet because, again, those little teeny tiny capillaries. And so sometimes in a baby, that's one of the first things they see. And then they're very susceptible to, life-threatening infections from specifically with something called encapsulated bacteria, which don't infect us so much because their spleen is really being messed up by the sickle cell. And so they have what they call functional asplenia. So your spleen is part of your immune system.
I'm laughing because I'm like, oh, that's another thing. I don't know what it does. I know I got one.
The spleen is kind of like this magical organ that luckily doesn't mess with us for the most part. There's only a few things we deal with the spleen with, like don't get hit there. That's not good.
Doesn't it like hold all the toxins? So that's why we don't want it.
No, your liver clears the toxins. No, It's just because there's a lot of blood flow to your spleen. So if it gets hit, blood
you can bleed out.
Yeah. Okay. So don't hit your spleen. Mono affects your spleen. Lymphomas affect your spleen. Things like sickle cell affect your spleen.
And I know when you have it taken out, it's a splenectomy.
Correct. And so
I just
functional asplenia means without a spleen. So even though you physically have it, it's been damaged so much by these sickle cells because your blood cells go there to like break down and get rid of and recycled. It's kind of messed up, so you can't fight his infections as well. And they have chronic pain, as we already talked about, leg ulcers because of their circulation. They can have vision issues because of blood supply to their retina, kidney injury from, again, all of these things building up, pulmonary hypertension, again, from their blood vessels, stroke, and delayed puberty just because of just poor growth in general. Mm-hmm. So we mentioned that other character had acute chest syndrome. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the most dangerous complications. And it can be triggered by kind of anything that sets your body off. So an infection, an infarction, which is where blood supply actually completely stops to an area and that area of tissue dies. And it usually starts with chest pain, fever, cough, and low oxygen, and is the leading cause of death in sickle cell. So, often these patients are relying on pain medications like we spoke about. So chronic opioid use is necessary, but of course there are complications related to that as well.
And
so
doesn't that impact your liver and other organs? Like, even if you're not having that addiction potential, which most people associate opioid use with, it can have those long-term like bodily effects as well.
So yeah, I mean, the biggest things that opioids do is, well, there's a whole lot, again, another episode, but the constipation is a huge one. The physical dependence is a huge one. You can even have where the blood, it slows your gut so much that the blood supply to your gut can cause issues there. Mm-hmm. But technically, like, it doesn't cause too much liver damage. Alcohol is way worse than that.
Alcohol and Tylenol are way worse.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, but there's just complications just because these patients are on chronic meds, and you kind of get to a point like, what else can we do for them? So a sickle cell crisis. So what's interesting is back when I was an undergrad, I had to do some shadowing hours in medical offices to fulfill my part to get into PA school. And I actually did with a pediatric hematology oncology practice in Newark specifically. Newark, New Jersey is a very diverse area and has a high African-American population. So these hematologists, hematology is a blood specialist, they did have a high population of patients with sickle cell. So I did get to see patient children, come in, and I'm in pain and showing their joints swelling up and these things. So there's definitely a difference between seeing it, especially in a child, and then reading about it. They're seeing that human aspect of this poor person who's just in excruciating pain.
Well, and knowing what we know about it now, I'm sure this is stuff that's screened very early on at birth. So at least they can set up a treatment plan, but obviously we can't prevent sickle cell, or we can't stop it.
We talked about newborn screening, but I don't know if sickle cell is in newborn screening. Let's Google that because I'm not sure.
I would think it was, though, if it's genetic and we know it's so serious. Maybe it's something you have to request, but maybe it's not like automatically screened for.
Sickle cell newborn screening is universal. Okay, so it is done. It just, there are a list of diseases that are done. So I didn't know if it was for sure on that list. So it is. So there's a heel stick gets done in the hospital before you leave. It is on that list. So.
But I would assume then, you're going to know pretty early on what treatment options are, what symptoms to look out for, all that stuff.
Right. And we're going to get in a moment to treatments, but for the longest time, pain medications and fluids were basically the treatment. There really wasn't much else you could do. So you have to, of course, avoid things to set them off. So they're going to be limited in exercise and playing.
Yeah. Knowing what we know about it now and that it's part of screening, do you think there's more genetic counseling done about it before people have children, or you don't think it's to that level yet?
No, I do not think it's part of genetic counseling in a normal pregnancy. Yeah. It's really not. If you know that some people in your family have it, then of course that would be brought up. But as far as a general population, just it's not something that happens prior to birth.
Yeah, and for people who don't know what genetic counseling is, it's essentially if you are planning to have a child, or you know that you are a carrier of some sort of significant genetic disorder, most doctors will encourage you to go genetic counseling either prior to pregnancy or during pregnancy. So that way you kind of know what is ahead for you, for your child, health complications, risks, benefits, all that stuff.
Exactly. So once, this person is here, we're trying to avoid triggers. So dehydration, emotional or physical stress, cold exposure, high altitude. So you're not going to be going to the top of any mountains.
Me neither, but I don't have sickle cell.
Infection, fever, things like that. And the pain can be sudden, intense, very unpredictable. Sometimes you just don't know, but the joints are often where they feel it the most. Sometimes it's described as comparable to childbirth or kidney stones, which are two of the things that you've heard people say are the most painful things. So imagine having that on a regular basis, So in a crisis, sort of the acute treatment is aggressive IV fluids, oxygen, opioids, usually morphine or hydromorphone, anti-inflammatory medications, warmth to help with circulation, and just basically monitoring them for things like that acute chest syndrome or infections. So
how long would you say like a crisis would last for someone, or it depends on what
I think there's
a
lot of factors, and how quickly they get that treatment. I really don't know, but I think it's going to be very dependent. So we have some treatment now, and we do have some new things coming. So one of the medications that they can use is something called hydroxyurea. It's used in other red blood cell disorders. Basically, it increases something called fetal hemoglobin, which does not sickle. That's another form of hemoglobin that you have as a fetus, but it would work and help you to have that instead of the sickled. It can reduce like the frequency of crisis. It's not a great treatment, but it's something. It does improve survival a bit.
Is it like invasive, or is it just taking a pill?
It's a pill.
Okay.
I'm not sure why it's saying it's underutilized. I'm not really exactly sure
Maybe
why.
Expense. Maybe availability,
Well, and that's a generic old medicine. It's an old medicine. It's not fancy at all. There's some new fancy ones.
Sometimes the insurance companies just don't cover stuff. So.
True. But there's some new ones, definitely, and definitely a monoclonal antibody biologic that's really on the forefront here, something called Adakivo. It's a monoclonal antibody that blocks P selection. I'm not sure what that is, but it reduces the stickiness of the sickle cells.
P selection is a selection of P.
Got it. Lowers frequency of the crises.
I don't know. Felt like it was
Some
right there in the
drugs, L-glutamine, which you may have heard of just glutamine, but this reduces oxidative stress, so it can help a little bit. Something called Oxbryta helps hemoglobin to bind the oxygen better, so that helps that end of things. And then just like chronic transfusions. So did we talk about transfusions with something else? I feel
not
like
in depth. Probably not in depth, though.
One of the risks, we did talk about blood type. So one of the risks of transfusion is even if it's a correct blood type, there are other little antibodies on there. And if you have repeated transfusions.
We talked about it in the House episode about lupus.
Yes. If you have repeated transfusions, you can get sort of your immune system starts to reject it. So there's
I'm also thinking like that's not really sustainable to like repeatedly need transfusions over and over again. Like, you're supposed to be like treating the source of needing that.
Yeah. But it's sort of where we're at. It's what we got.
Yeah.
And then of course the pain management. But one of the newer things is using bone marrow and stem cells to actually help. And I had just seen an article recently about that. So that helps to replace the sickle producing blood marrow or bone marrow with healthy donor cells. Best if it's a matched sibling or someone along those lines. It has all those typical things that any bone marrow transplant would have as risk of infection, risk of, finding somebody that matches access and cost. But here's some of the newest thing, gene therapy. This is, we're talking 23 to 24. It just is came about. And so there's 2 therapies currently approved. One is called Casgevy. It uses CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing. It reactivates that fetal hemoglobin we talked about and prevents sickling at a molecular level. And another one called Lyfgenia. I don't know.
I want to name nail polishes and drugs because they don't always make sense.
No. Uses lentiviral gene addition. It adds a modified hemoglobin gene that resists sickling, and it has a dramatic reduction of these crises. And patients can become functionally cured, which is amazing. There's still a lot of long-term data that they're coming, following, but
and they're probably not doing it on a large group. It's probably a small N.
But I guess, here's the thing. It is a small world, the sickle cell world. So your hematologist, if they're anywhere related to an academic center, I'm sure they're reading about these things and will help you find a trial if you qualify.
But I'm saying I don't think this is something that's widely available to a lot of people yet.
It's pretty new.
Yeah.
So, as we talked about, the health disparities, Black patients with sickle cell are often disbelieved, called drug seekers, long wait times in ERs, under-treating their pain.
Well, and it sounds like if you go to an ER for it, there's only so much they can do for you anyway. So,
Yeah,
They're
but
going
that's
to
what
turn
you
you out
you
as
have
soon as
no
possible.
option. But you have no option at that point to do anything else. Get your fluids and get your pain meds and hope for the best. But,
Yeah.
I'm hoping now with these new treatments, I think we'll be seeing some changes in the future. And like we said, with mixed gene pools, hopefully things like this are also dying out. Living in a world that is connected globally, we're mixing our gene pools more. And so,
Right.
that's not a bad thing. That helps to eliminate some of these diseases. So yeah, sickle cell. I mean, it's something I said, I think we've heard of, but a lot of people don't know a whole lot about it.
Well, I was going to say, I thought you were going to talk about actual Bloody Mary, but I guess that would fall more under my purview than yours. So maybe that'll be a different episode.
Where we in Catholic school used to, if you turned around 3 times in the dark in front of the mirror, Bloody Mary would come and get you.
And the original Bloody Mary, Mary of Scots, who bathed in virgin's blood. Yeah,
of course. All right,
it's more psychological
the bottom
than medical.
Of my blood bag now here.
Chug, 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 chug. Yay!
There's pepper in the bottom there.
Ugh, you got to suck all that pepper down and then cough. Thank you. Choke on. You know what would go very well in that Bloody Mary? Some pickles and some olives.
Yes, pickles are definitely a definite additive, and bacon. Bacon makes everything better.
There was something the other. I was thinking about you about like that distinct taste. Oh, this is what it is. What are your thoughts on black licorice? Because that's another distinct flavor.
It is. So I do like it.
So
I
you
like black
anise or anise?
I do. But
fennel.
I do. I like fennel too.
I don't like fennel.
Real licorice. True licorice. What we get in
not Twizzlers. Sorry, Twizzlers.
Right, or Brock's or whatever. Yeah. Even the black stuff. Even the black licorice is not. If you go to Iceland, get some real licorice. Yeah. The flavor is almost chocolatey. It's like this, I don't know, something about, there is a brand in the US, I can't remember. I think it had like a panda on the front. I don't know why it would have a panda. Penguin? Had some sort of animal on the front. Iceland has nothing to do with pandas or penguins. But it had some sort of animal. But anyway, it's not a wallaby. That would be the wrong place. I don't remember.
That's Australia. Australia
anyway,
has
there's a brand in the US. I know Whole Foods used to carry it. I feel like it was like wallaby, but I don't know. But anyway, it was real licorice. And that stuff is like really good.
Well, I asked because a while ago, a friend of mine had told me, try black licorice caramels. And I did, and I was obsessed with them. And then it immediately fell out of my brain and something reminded me of it. And so I ordered ones off of Amazon and I am now addicted.
Uh-oh.
So good. Next time we see each other, whenever that may happen, if I still have some, I'll bring you some because they're good. Because it has that flavor, but it's not like that overwhelming, gross chemical flavor that American black licorice has. It's not a chemical flavor.
Exactly.
But see, I don't like anise, or fennel, which I know that's the more natural flavor. I don't like those. So I guess I'm on the fence with that one.
But you like these ones that you're having.
Do.
So whatever that is, it's good. Do you like, this is another flavor, but do you like ginger, like real gingery ginger?
Sometimes. Like I like ginger ale. Sometimes I like things that have fresh ginger in it. Other times I don't. So I think it depends probably on the amount of ginger.
Because there's these candies called gingies.
Yes, I've seen those.
And they have both chewable and like hard candy forms. And the chewable, they're pretty addictive.
See, ginger is on like the cusp of black pepper, which makes my lips swell. Okay. So I think I'm hesitant to try it, even though I enjoy the flavor.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is your cooking section of Medical Media Mixer.
Flavors.
We talk about flavors,
Flavor profiles. Yes. And I finished my drink also. So apparently we liked both of our beverages.
Yeah, I still have a little in a cup extra that I didn't fit in my blood bag. So I'll sip that. All right. So hopefully you guys learned a little something. Thank you for listening to Medical Media Mixer.
The perfect cocktail. Cheers.
Cheers.
Clink.
A little more pepper.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Medical Media Mixer podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps others find the show. Want to keep the conversation going? Follow us on social media. We're at Medical Media Mixer Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and on Pinterest, the Medical Media Mixer board.
If you'd like to support the show and help us grow, check us out on Patreon. Patreon.com/Medical Media Mixer Podcast. And on Buy Me a Coffee, buymeacoffee.com/Medical Media Mixer Podcast. If you have a topic idea, feedback, or just want to say hi, send us an email at medicalmediamixer@gmail.com. You can also stream all of our episodes and find more info on our website, medicalmediamixer.podbean.com. We're available on all major podcast platforms, so no matter where you listen, we're there. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep mixing medicine and media.